Hello, soul friends and soul family, and welcome back to another episode of Inspired Sovereignty Radio. Hey, Kimberly.
Hey everybody.
Hey, so today we're doing things a little bit differently. We are Zooming because we are not able to be in the same location today. And we want to make sure that we get this really, really good conversations into your mind and hearts. And yeah, what are we talking about today, Kimberly?
Talking about conscious language. We're just going to do an overview and hit one aspect that really has an impact.
Yeah, so this is such a good conversation. And even like for a lot of people, it's like, well, what do you mean conscious language?
Mhm.
For a lot of people, it's going to be like, well, isn't language just conscious? What do you mean by that? Like give us the tiniest little tidbit and then we'll do our quick housekeeping.
Well, I mean, the tiniest tidbit is that when you're trying to create something in your life, your language really matters, and we tend to cut ourselves off from flow just with our words.
Such an interesting conversation this is going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. So yeah, so everybody, hey, welcome back. We hope that you guys are all doing well in December 2021. We know that this is coming out a day before the solstice. So of course, we wish for you all to be very intentional and aware of your energies and on top of our self-care as best as we can. And going into this holiday season with as much grace as we can for ourselves and one another, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we're back on track with a new episode coming out every Monday for you guys. And of course, as you know, we've got us here on all of the podcast apps, but also on YouTube. And so if you go over to YouTube, please subscribe to the channel so that we stay connected. And also, if you can hit the like on the videos, that really helps us with the algorithm, because you guys know how censorship is in all of these algorithms now. And also, this episode today, Kimberly has prepared this brilliant and gorgeous slideshow to take us along this conversation, because things like this, like this conversation, it's so helpful when you can actually see what we're talking about as well, right? With the words, with the languaging, even with spelling. So I invite everybody, if this is a conversation that's like really intriguing for you, please come over to the YouTube video as well, because you'll probably get a lot more out of it because we've got visuals with this one as well, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So yeah, let's dive right in. We've got also a really, really great episode coming out next Monday, talking about cleansing and consciousness, and cleansing from a spiritual aspect and going deeper into the Essene Gospel of Peace. And so we know that there's some listeners that have been waiting for this episode for well over a year. So we're so excited to get into that one soon too. So anyways, let's dive into this goodness, Kimberly.
All right.
So I'm gonna pass this over to you, and you start us off on this super important conversation. Like, this is so important.
Yeah, yes, it really is, because it's how everything sort of shapes around us. And the thing that I'm noticing is, because we're doing this, I'm noticing, like, when my unconscious language is popping up, because I've already had one thing pop up. So it's funny. So during this, you'll hopefully notice me picking up on some of my languaging and even shifting it. This is something, it just takes, it's a practice. Conscious language is really a practice. It's not something that a lot of people talk about, or there's aspects of it where it's a small encompassing of conscious language. Because I've been aware of language for a really long time, and this takes it to the next level. This is next level language. So we're going to hit just a particular domain, but there's more than one domain of language, but we're going to hit one of those. But first, we'll start out with welcome to conscious language.
Yes. Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So, and when we're talking about conscious language in this, and I mean, you've done more study in this realm at this point than I have. We're talking specifically, and maybe you're going to go over this in this conversation, in this conscious conversation, but this is primarily in regards to the English language, because the English language has been hijacked, right? Is that
Yes. And
okay?
yes. I mean, I couldn't really speak to anything else other than this, because this is the book that I'm using that
Yeah.
is all English language. And it also speaks about the spell, the where we all had the same language and then it sort of kicked us out. And so there's the language of Babel, which some people have probably heard of Babel, right? Well, the thing about that is it's what this book talks about is how it's a virus in our language. So it's the Babel virus. So I like the way it jives because it's Babel, and when we're not consciously speaking, it is more like Babel, right?
Would this even have roots in like Babylon? Like,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes. Much of this information is biblical. There's
Amazing.
yeah, in the back of the book and at the last slide I'll show you the book so you can have that information. So everybody can have that information. But the book is called Conscious Language, The Logos of Now, and it's by Robert Tennyson Stevens. And it's to me, it's just like so expanding. So expanding. But the whole back of it has scripture that backs all this up. So it's really cool. It's really cool.
Amazing.
So when you're practicing conscious language, like I said, for me it's a practice, then you're upgrading your language to upgrade your life. And we'll go more into that. So I'm going to go to the next slide. And we all know that the Bible starts with, in the beginning, there was the Word. So that tells you right there how important the Word is. Right?
Yeah.
And in that, I have, we're where we are right now in our life because of our language. So specifically, we have arrived to where we are through our current language and consciousness. So where you are in life right now came from your language, came from your thought. Your language isn't just what you speak out, it's what you think. So it's inner language and outer language.
Amazing.
Okay, any questions about that?
No, not for me yet. This is great. Yeah. Because I really think that like a lot of us don't really think this way. We don't actually have that awareness of everything, right? Like you're saying, that we're thinking, that we're emoting all the stories in our mind, what comes out of our mouth, what comes out of our written word, in all the ways that we're not specific, in all the ways that we're hindering our manifestation abilities, or just because everything that we're saying and doing is co-creating, right? And so when we're using, what would you call it, even faulty language, it's like we throw kind of a wrench into truly what we desire in our co-creation of it, right?
Exactly.
Amazing.
Exactly right. Conscious language offers a new possibility, a new exactness to the personal responsibility of you and I to awaken exactly how life situations have transpired in our life and what to do through language awareness to change our life situations into our full manifest potential. So that just goes right along with what you just said.
Yeah.
So we are so much more capable than we all know. We have so many more abilities than everybody knows.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody. That's not conscious. That most people know.
Yeah.
So language is really an important piece. And I'm just quickly going to tie it into water too, because for us, we're water beings, right? So, and we have learned that that water crystallizes according to our words and our intentions. So when we're speaking to ourselves, when we're having thoughts, when we're speaking to other people, we're impacting the water in them, we're impacting the water in ourselves. So the more crystallized you want to be, the more embodied you want to be, the more you want to pay attention to your language and notice your language. And the more you want to put conscious language into practice.
And again, that's your inner language and outer language, right?
Yes.
That was so beautiful. And I would love to invite everybody watching and listening, like as we listen to this conversation, let's imagine what if this is how we embodied our inner and outer language? what would shift in our reality? So as we're listening to this and going through this conversation, where can we see how we are hindering ourselves through our language, right? And what would it be like, or what will it be like when that's not our lazy language habits anymore?
Right. Right.
Yeah. Amazing.
And our, you know, even taking water out of the picture, even though you can't, but our chemistry in our body is affected by our language. So our hormones are affected, our neurons.
Our genes are affected even, right? Into the epigenetics.
Exactly. So this is really great. And to me, it's like a simple, even though it is a practice, kind of like yoga is a practice, kind of, you know, most of our practices are practices, and, you know, we might miss one day, you know, or one sentence or whatever, but it's just so, it's simple, but it requires awareness.
Yeah.
Logos. So logos means, it's a Latin word, a Greek word. I mean, it means word. Logos means word. So he says logos of the now. So the other thing about language, conscious language, is that we're speaking about now. We're speaking in the moment.
Okay. So it's always present moment.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Well, maybe not always, but mostly present.
Good catch.
It's present. So some people even use, you know, talk like, say, Kimberly, and they'll talk that way just to get practice. So, but it means now. I mean, it means word. The word in which the inward thought is expressed, the inward thought itself, from legion to speak. Universe. Uni, consisting of one only. Verse, a poem, a song, a word. Universe, one song, one verse, one poem, unified. So that's, you know, the universe that we're in, we're unified with the universe. Like you said, we're co-creating with the universe.
Yeah. So, yeah, that is so beautiful. I've actually never seen the word universe broken down like that.
I know. I love it.
That's very poetic existence, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
Our language shapes our consciousness. And folks listening, I am reading, and then we're riffing off of these. So when it sounds like I'm reading, I really am reading. So language is the shaper of our world, the spell of our reality. And I put spell in there because there's more information, bigger and broader than conscious language. There is really, like Ivy was saying, a hijacking of our language that is phonetic, and even in written word, that has been sort of this blanket over us that keeps us stuck in these patterns, not just our personal patterns, but our collective patterns, and more so even than that, keeps us connected to the darkness.
Yeah, like an intentional manipulation of our spoken and written and thought word, right?
Right.
And actually, how about this? In the show notes, so that everybody can have these resources, we will put a link for the book that this conversation is based off of. Let's also put a link for Dr. Emoto's videos on the crystallization of water and how that is influenced by our spoken and thoughtful words. And let's also on what you're talking about right now, on how like the spelling of words and how we're actually casting spells, and how our language has been hijacked and manipulated intentionally to keep us within this matrix. The really good book that we found on that, it's called Word Magic, right?
Yep.
So we've got the free audio from YouTube. So that'll also be in the show notes. It's a, 4 or 5 hour listen. It's a really good listen. And so if you want to dive into like the dark manipulation of language, it is so eye-opening. It is so eye-opening. It'll blow your mind. And so that is also in the show notes if you guys want to dive in even deeper into that realm.
Yeah. I also recommend having a copy of that book. There's a lot of annotations and bolding in that book that um, provides more information about
Cool.
the works when they're talking about it. But listening to it is also, it was so eye opening. It was
Oh
so
yeah.
opening.
Right? Like all of the words that we use, we can see how all of these words, or even just the chunks of words, it's not at all what we were taught in school growing up. Like when you get to the root word and stuff, it's like how our words are actually put together is so different than what we were all trained to think, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
we start seeing that it's like, oh my goodness, all of these words that we just thought were common words, neutral words, are actually heavily, heavily loaded with very dark history. So that's such an interesting rabbit hole.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We'll get there
Yeah.
probably in,
We'll do an episode on that sometime.
yeah. So it's so cool. It's so cool. It's so radical.
Not cool.
Right, right.
Yeah.
When for me, it's like when I become aware of something like that, I'm just like, wow, okay, I need to change this.
Right?
Or I want to change this, or actually, I choose to change this. See how I just went through all? So that's really the stages of conscious language right there. I just went through the first one, the second one, and the third one. And the third one was the highest choice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
So our conscious language also has an impact on our health, like I was talking about, a disease, happiness, sadness, abundance, poverty, survival, and thrill are all decreed by the individual or group into reality through our consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can see that threaded through right now. There's
Yeah.
groups that are bought into certain narratives, and so it's like they're almost in a whole different world.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's a bunch of different groups out there. Yeah. So limited beliefs, and a lot of times we've heard limiting beliefs, but specifically this says limited beliefs are committed to their own survival, even into the demise of the physical vehicle in which they reside, until they meet a commitment to change the limitation into some powerful and specific blessing. And that's Helena Stevens. Even to the demise of the physical vehicle. That's our bodies, y'all.
Yeah. Well, a lot of us will think and speak ourselves into disease states and even into death, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And that probably also has to do with like the self-fulfilling prophecy, when if we have these limited beliefs, we're only going to be creating experiences that fit into that limited belief, right? How are we going to experience something that is outside of that if that's the space that we're stuck within, basically, right?
Exactly. And limited beliefs, those all get, maybe not all of them, a lot of them get put in place when we're children.
Yeah.
So it's worth, when you start to notice your language, you'll start to notice, and then you can almost trace it back to, oh, this happened when I was a kid.
Yeah. And then for all of us that have children or will have children, if we can all just, incorporate this conversation now into how do we parent? How are we speaking to our children? Can we assess what their current beliefs are? And can we do some deprogramming, reprogramming work, ASAP, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm glad you said programming and reprogramming, because these are language programs. These are our human operating
systems, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, we program our kids, like you said, and even our relationships, our partnerships. We were programmed, teachers, grandparents, parents, uncles, aunts. I mean, it's so interesting to me.
Oh yeah. And then also, like, when it comes to our children, to understand that like our children are being programmed by everything around them. Yes. Everything around them. So as parents, like, you be the ones to like take on the responsibility to deprogram and reprogram your child as much as you can, and for your influence on your child to be very effective, benevolent, loving, compassionate programming, because that's possible. But it takes us as the parent to have awareness and do the work, right?
Awareness is so important because we're not always going to get it right. We're not always going to get it right. But when we're aware, then we can go and we can retract what we just said. And you can retract it by saying, cancel, delete, because you want to cancel that, what you just put into motion. You can do that. And then you can just say the new higher choice. And like you noticed me before, I just went from 1 to 1 to 1.
Yes.
So I'm choosing to be more mindful of cancel, delete. I think yesterday we were going back and forth. We were talking and I said, edit, delete.
Yeah. Well, and how about, do you want to pause on that thought for a minute and really like share, what do you mean? Because somebody that's never really heard that before, they'll be like, well, what do you mean? You said something that you didn't mean to say. So now out loud, you just say cancel, delete, as if you're actually on a keyboard editing your written spoken word. Like, why do you do it like that?
You can say it to yourself. You can. Yeah. It's more powerful when you speak it out. Well, we're going to get to that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. So.
Perfect.
Okay.
Just go.
Press go.
I said let's go, but sure. Press go. Enter key. Forward.
We're going to keep on because we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
To change limited beliefs, commit to upgrade into victorious beliefs fully. So awareness and a commitment. I commit to being aware, and I commit to these victorious beliefs because we're worthy of those victorious beliefs. We're worthy of our highest choices.
Yeah. What are our victorious beliefs? Because most people have probably also never heard victorious beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Victorious beliefs would be, well, I am worthy. I am capable. I can do this. So it's simple. So victorious is a beautiful word, but it's also really simple. Mm-hmm. It's those statements that are your highest choices. I choose to do this and I choose to do it well. Those are victorious beliefs. Mm-hmm. I am, any I am statement that is a high frequency, a high energy, a higher choice is going to be your victorious beliefs. So I think visualization also helps with this. So when you're especially when you're doing affirmations, so seeing it as well.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Okay. And this is where we get into why we want to cancel, delete. Okay. So our speech is the conscious direction of breath from our lungs turned into sound currents crossing over our vocal cords. So we
say it one more time because that's so good. Will you?
Yeah.
It's so good.
Speech is the conscious direction of breath from our lungs turned into sound currents crossing over our vocal cords.
Yeah. Thank you.
So in general, we all emit the sound the same way. Mm-hmm. And so in doing that, that's when you're casting your spell, casting your decree. That's when you're prophesizing. Am I saying that right? Prophesizing?
It works for me.
Okay. So that's your decree of what's going to happen. That's the magic of our bodies, the magic of sound, the magic of frequency. The sound currents shaped by our tongue, mouth, and lips become words which have the power to give life or take life. Mm-hmm. And when we say give life or take life, we're talking also, when you think of life, we're meant to be thriving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when I think of give life, take life, I think of having a thriving life,
Mm-hmm.
an abundant life, or having a life that is just out of control. That's not what you would choose if you were aware.
Yeah, beautiful. And if I can even add in nonviolent communication, it's often spoken that what is alive in you, and when we speak from a place of nonviolence, it's to bring more life and to give more like support to life and to truly be more alive through our compassionate words.
I love that.
Right? Yeah.
All language is vibration. Vibration includes sound and light.
Hmm.
Language is the process of spirit, and spirit is breath and inspiration. So language is the process of spirit becoming reality.
Hmm. Hmm. Mm-hmm.
So our inspiration breathed out through our words, our language, becoming reality.
Is it like the human being, as a multidimensional light projector? It's so interesting that we're at this collective place of truly understanding that it's like, nah, we're literally here as beings holding light frequency. We're literally here to change an entire planet. And we know to do it through here and through here and through here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So here's some go-to affirmations, which are also known as the language of mastery. So I'm just going to put these out there in there so we have an understanding of them. So I am is one we talked about, and I'll talk more about I am in a second. I can, I will, I choose, I have, I love, I create, I enjoy. And notice those are all like now.
Yeah.
And they can be ... right? So I can ... I will ...
Beautiful.
You're speaking now. The results of the domain of mastery are manifested desires come easily and quickly. Our subconscious mind says, yes, I can. Yes, I am. So these are positive, yeses when we're saying I can, I will, I choose. Those are yeses.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
And I already said they're present moment. So they're now language.
Yeah. When I hear those and see those, also, like, the first thing that I feel is like this benevolent positive momentum. Like, it feels like these are all words and statements that are, for whatever leads after them, create so much more momentum of energy versus all of the opposite things that we would say instead of those, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Momentum for sure. All right, next. Leading off with I am quickens the results and the frequency as the I am is fully experienced and understood. So there's a practice you can take on too that's like I just repeating I am, I am, I am, I am, and really getting that into your body.
That's so interesting. Amazing.
And I am that I am is a powerful affirmation, and I am and I can is another really powerful affirmation. Just repeating those can crystallize you more, bring more fortitude to your body.
Amazing. Amazing.
I love this stuff.
Yeah. Well, of course, right? This definitely, and I'm sure your feeling shifts in your reality, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. And my energy.
Yeah.
So my energy is more abundant right now. My energy is just like off the charts because you and I, we're both kind of we're not kind of, we're in the same boat, but it's what I've noticed is that I have this real I am and I can going on inside me. And it is like propelling me forward. It's propelling me towards things that I would not have necessarily noticed before.
Mm-hmm. I feel you on that completely. And even like that is a super simple takeaway from this episode for people, just to even start adopting I am and I can. I am and I can. I am and I can. Right? Like that alone will do beautiful things in one's reality.
Yes.
Yes. Amazing.
Next. Okay. Points to remember. Choice is always available. And I think this is one really important aspect that a lot of people don't pick up on. So many people believe that they don't have a choice, but I have to go and do this. I have to work my job. I have to do, I have to pick up after my son, or I have to. He's doing this, therefore I have to. You know, those type of cycles and circles that we get ourselves into.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, you really don't have to go and do your job. You know, but then your mind goes, well, if I don't, then this is going to happen and this is going to happen. So that's what keeps us stuck in I have to. That's what keeps us stuck believing that there's not a choice. The consequences. But the thing is, the consequences are the consequences, but that doesn't take away the choice.
Exactly.
You know, it still doesn't take away the choice.
Yeah. And also, though, when we see that we do have choice in places that we don't normally perceive our choice, when we see that we have choice, and then we also understand and understand the consequences, I think that seeing that there's choice opens us up to brainstorming other possibilities if we don't like that consequence. You know, seeing that we have choice, it's like, okay, well, how might I do things differently and avoid that consequence, but be sovereign in my choice?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Specificity brings up feelings. This is why it's usually avoided. So,
right. Even when we ask somebody to be specific, often then it's still vague. You know, it can be a lot of work to get specific in our own stuff or to support other people, right?
Absolutely.
Holy.
Absolutely. When I heard that, I heard somebody say that, and then it's also in the book, but I heard somebody say that the other day, and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. Why we live in this vague, non-specific environment, because it evokes feelings, and many of us avoid feeling because of all the things that come up with feeling.
Right.
You know, typically it's the painful feelings that we don't want. But then also, if you really, really think about it, you can probably remember a time when you wanted to say something wonderful to somebody and it evoked feelings in your body, even tears. When you're deeply honest with somebody, when you're expressing love, really deep love, that also is a physical sensation that comes up that feels, unless we're used to it, it can feel really scary.
Yeah. Oh, fully.
Words spoken with feelings and specificity equal manifestation. So this isn't a law of attraction talk or anything like that, and we are manifesting all the time. So if you really break it down elementary school sized, that's not, I don't know if that made sense, but because we're creating our life constantly with every choice that we're at, because we're really in choice all the time. Mm-hmm. That is true. All the time you're in choice to open your mouth, to close your eyes. I mean, we're just always in choice. You are just creating your environment around you. So just if you stop and just think, I'm choosing to turn my head this way. I mean, it's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what
Oh
you're,
yeah.
it's all the things. So it's that
Yeah.
simple. So manifestation isn't just about manifesting a car or
Mhm.
manifesting a new home or manifesting abundance. Those things can happen as well, but those are also choices after choice after choice after choice of action and feeling and words.
Oh yeah. And like right thinking, accurate thinking, right action, right? That gets us to those places. And if I can add, like on this point of words spoken with feelings and specificity equal manifestation, if I can take us like over into when we're in a much more challenging place inside of ourselves, right? Where we've got a lot of hard feelings, a lot of emotions that are uncomfortable, and we might have like a lot of words and stories going through our mind. I find like when I'm personally within that type of realm of energy, I try to, how can I upgrade try? Like what I notice is that I'm learning to become more neutral. At least if I'm not in a place where I can swing myself over into the super positive space, I at least, with all the feelings and everything that I have, I try to approach from, no, I approach from a place of neutrality so that I'm being easy with myself so that I'm not unconsciously or even consciously miscreating into my future.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
How can I say that better?
You said it great.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So not for us to be like too hard and too down and too miserable on ourselves. Like just know that let's come back to a place of neutrality. Let's feel the stuff, but let's not create a whole bunch of spoken, written, anything that's going to solidify me further into this energy.
Mm-hmm. And so to do that, what are you doing physically? What are you doing when you notice?
Oh, you mean in order to create some neutrality from these darker, harder feelings? Normally that would be coming more into my breath and into my body. And then also understanding that I'm in complete choice. I've got many options on how I want to interpret this situation. I've got many options on how I can choose to feel. And I've got unlimited options on how I can choose to respond. And also, if I need to just be and integrate, I have the choice to give myself the space to do that. And I have the choice to allow these feelings to move through or these thoughts to move through without me choosing to identify with them and choosing to grasp them, right? Because even for us to be like in a really depressed or really anxious or really anything place, we're still choosing to feel these feels, and it's still optional, right? All of the feels are available to us at all the times. What do you want to feel? What do you want to experience, right? And we're going to be creating from that. And especially if it's intense feels, right?
Yeah. So what do you, beautifully said. Perfect, perfect, perfect.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. So what you want to feel, what you're choosing to feel, you can choose that thought.
Yes. And then use some of our positive, victorious belief statements with it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So what Ivy said, you're always in choice. So choosing a different thought is possible. Our minds have patterns. Our minds are cyclic. They have patterns. And so they go for what feels safe. They go for what keeps us out of danger, keeps us comfortable, keeps us normal, quote unquote, normal. So our normal is reactivity. Our normal is anger here. Our normal is depression here. So choose different thoughts, and that will start to change your reality, change your chemistry, change your waters.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then
and
different from that.
yeah. And then, in those moments, if we're only just beginning to understand that we have choice in those moments, it can, it's going to take some effort to bring that awareness into those moments that are normally more just programmed and habitual, right? Understanding that we have the neural pathways that we've walked down so many times. So now to take a different mental, emotional, intellectual, or cognitive path, it's like, well, that's just going to take some energy. Just a little bit of energy and awareness, right? Same thing like if we're hiking through the woods and we always go through this same path. Well, it's like, well, we want to take a different path this time. Well, we're going to have to stomp down some little trees and some weeds, and it's like we're going to actually have to like journey and navigate physically, emotionally, and mentally this different path. And so it's going to take effort the first few times, but then it's like then we have this new path that we have, right?
Yeah, and noticing what's there in the way. So, yeah.
Like, what are those little weeds? What is the little tree in the way? What are the things that I need to like kind of stomp down and flatten, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Move this big rock, move this old worry, right?
Yeah. And one to what you were saying also, so the first thing you'll notice physically is something going on in your body, constriction, tightness of breath, blood rushing to your head. So you'll get signaled by your body when you're in that state that you were speaking of before. So when you start to notice that stuff come up in your body, that's your signal to know.
And if we can also add that is often like a fraction of a second. That part happens like so fast, right? So for us to get to know it and slow it down. Okay, continue.
Yes, and that confirms that your thoughts create chemistry and chemicals to move around in your body. Okay, so we're putting it all. This is so much fun. Okay, next slide. Every word we speak is a prayer or decree or spell coming into manifestation moment by moment. By learning what we are actually saying when we speak silently or out loud, we can evaluate if what we are saying is what we choose to prophesize.
Mm-hmm.
So that just kind of ties all that together, or that doesn't kind of. Let's get kind of out of there. That ties it all together.
Kimberly, why are we not saying kind of? Let's, as you're editing in real time your spoken word, explain for us. Why are you not saying kind of, maybe, sorta?
Kinda, maybe, sorta are like almost retracting what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So, it's buffering what you're saying. It's dumbing down what you're saying. So it's
creating a lot of uncertainty, right?
Exactly. And I have a whole list of those things coming up right here. You're such a good secretary. So words to upgrade. I love this list. I want. So I want is a future statement, right? So it's not now. I would, I need. We talked a lot about that. I could, I should. So should is top. I want to do a whole episode on shoulding yourself to death. So, or shoulding yourself a lot. Actually, it'll be like, are you shoulding all over yourself and others? So a lot of these are judgments, and think about the energy or feel the energy when I'm saying these. I might, I hope, I wish, I must. In order to, I have to, so that, I've got to, if all else fails. This one, I can't.
Yeah, that whole list feels very depleting and defeating, and it doesn't feel at all like we're actually capable.
Right. I can't, at least. So these are things too that we might not, we typically aren't aware of, that this also creates vagueness. This is also creating a pullback in our posture as divine beings. I don't know. Won't it? So see, won't it? So it's like, that's a negative. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to go deeply into that. That is for another episode, but it's like not actually equals death. So those words that go along that have not with them, it's just like erasing what you just said.
That's so interesting.
It's hard. Try. Do or do not. There is no try.
Right.
There's an exercise in a group I was in where, and even I've done this with when I was in the corporate world, one of my employees, I'm like, try to raise your hand. Try to raise your hand. They're like, and their hand goes up. And I'm like, okay, you did raise your hand. You didn't try to raise your hand. So there's only two domains. It's do or do not.
That's so right. That's
Yeah.
so right.
Doesn't it? Can't you? I hate. It
Mm.
makes me. But wouldn't you? However, can't you?
Mm.
And then a few more, kind of, which that one is one that I really notice I use often. Didn't you? Almost. If then, probably. Probably. We use probably a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like that keeps us from committing. It keeps us
True.
open.
Yeah. Yeah.
When then, perhaps, sort of like almost, or like almost. I feel that. So this one. When people use I feel like and I feel that. So we're saying I feel when actually we're talking about a belief. And it's
Mm.
so prevalent in our language right now, so prevalent that you hear a lot of people saying, I feel like it would be da 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 da, or I feel like we should da 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 da, or I feel like I. And so what they're really saying is a belief after that. They're not saying a feeling. A feeling is excited. A feeling is sad. A feeling is grief. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so going back to like for me, because a lot of my background now is in the nonviolent communication, we use a lot of I feel statements, but we would use it more so as like, I feel joy when you speak to me this way, or you do, or when you do this, I feel joy. You know,
Perfect.
so I'm actually speaking to a feeling, or like I feel sadness when you don't do what you say you were going to do or something. So we can use I feel consciously, but you're saying when we're specifically speaking about how we're feeling, not what we're thinking, not what we believe, but just literally how are we feeling, like emotionally and physically, and nothing more than that, really. That's what we're saying, right?
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then in all the other ways that we say I feel, like I feel that this isn't fair, or I feel, those are all beliefs. And so how would you say those things instead? I have a belief that this isn't fair.
So this is one that I am close to mastering. Okay. So because this is one that was brought to my attention 10 years ago. And this is one that I call people out on a lot. So, yeah, I say I believe, or my belief is. That's what I usually say. My belief is.
Okay. Would people also use I think in this place?
You could use I think.
Okay.
I believe that it's more personal using the word belief, and it means more, but also that's just me.
Okay.
You know,
Beautiful. Yeah.
okay. Always and never. Another I feel, and then shouldn't you. So the shoulds, the coulds, the needs, the woulds, the wants.
Speak to decide. We kind of went over that one really quick. Why, to me, it's like I decide and I choose. To me, it's almost like those could be hand in hand in a conscious way. So why are we not wanting to say decide?
I honestly don't. I have the same belief that you have about it. Like it's like the two. So I don't have enough experience with that word to understand or to understand what it is undoing or doing.
Okay. And that's a great and honest answer. And maybe we'll come across that.
Right.
But still, I choose is still going to probably be a more powerful, positive phrase anyways, right?
Yes. So we want to go, but we can choose to go back. See how I'm like going all over the place with this? I really want to say the highest statement, and we have our affirmation list.
Yeah.
That's what we want to work from. There, I said it.
Perfect.
I think it's fun. I think it's fun actually noticing my languaging, noticing what I'm putting out there. I also notice that depending on who I'm speaking to, it will change. So sometimes I will dumb down my language, and I don't mean that it's dumb. I just mean I'm not using as conscious of language.
Yeah.
Organically, I don't think with certain people because I'm trying to relate more or I'm choosing to relate more. And what I choose is to maintain my consciousness in that from this point forward. So in the past, that is how I rolled. In the future, I choose to pick the highest languaging, the conscious highest languaging when I'm communicating with others. There. Whew.
Yeah. And so as everybody can see that it's work, it's work to speak consciously, but it's very, very value filled.
Yes. It's fun to me. It's fun. Working on restructuring a sentence is fun to me. Mm-hmm. I'm weird like that, I guess, in a good way. It is essential to speak only what we choose to have come into manifestation now and continuously. So I think I've said that a few times. Okay, we're going to go into a domain. Mm-hmm. There are a few domains. I'm losing my specificity. I think there's 7 domains. So I'm not 100% sure. And so there's this domain here is one that is very prevalent in our society, especially with what's going on right now, too. Mm-hmm. So the domain of absolutes and grandiosities. So I'm going to talk in that unconscious language for a second. So everybody wants you to do this. I always see people rolling their eyes when I speak about this. So this is the absolutes and grandiosities. Mm-hmm. It's that always, totally, everyone language.
So we're generalizing across to the whole.
Yes.
And how is that ever actually possible, right? How is that ever actually going to be accurate? It's never going to be.
Right.
Oh, wait, as I say, never.
I know. I have more information about this. It's really, really interesting. But just if you would just notice when that comes up, when you are just putting everything in the pot, and totally, always, everyone. And there's more. And we're going to go deeper into this. But those comments we make reveal a deeper need to not get specific. So a deeper need not to feel, and a deeper need to be lazy with our language, or deeper way of being lazy with our language. Mm-hmm. We avoid specificity. We're avoiding feeling. So this is typically what happens. And I'm going to go into the feelings about absolutes and grandiosities in 1 second here. Since specificity is so very important in manifestation, this domain plays a major role in both feeling and specificity. So see how absolutes and grandiosities help us avoid feeling and specificity. Mm-hmm. Using the unconscious state of this domain in your language is linked to suppressed grief and sadness. I found that to be really interesting.
That is very interesting.
I think when we go to the next slide, notice what comes up. Mm-hmm. So there might be something that comes up where you're like, oh yeah, where grief and sadness are part of it. I'm learning that aspect still.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, this is all a lot to learn when we've spent how many years?
Yeah.
Thinking, speaking, all in certain ways.
Mm-hmm. And with absolutes and grandiosities, when I notice them taking place the most is when we're in a communication that is blamey.
Yeah.
Yeah. You always, dot, dot,
Yeah.
dot.
Or, and also, I think when people hold themselves, well, I mean, same thing, when we're blaming, we're in more of a victim mode, but
Yeah.
also a victim mode without somebody specific to blame. You know, it's like everyone's always, you know, and it's always me, just, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it puts us probably in a really weak place energetically.
Mm-hmm. And this is one that I'm close. I have been aware of for a long time too. So this is one that I've been working on for 10 years.
Great.
As well. And being that I was a supervisor, you know, I was a general manager of a retail store, and somebody would come to me, all the customers or everyone is this and da da da, and I just loved reframing those.
Yeah.
It was like a game for me. And it was so annoying for them, you know?
I was going to say, but important, right? Super important.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
I believe it is because of the energy the energy that's attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Okay, so here's where this slide, I don't know if I want to read the whole slide. I don't have to read the whole slide, and these are absolute and grandiosities upgrades. So just to pique your awareness of why these words aren't true, you know, I'm going to go through some of them, or I'm going to go through them and give you the reasons why. But the third section of the slide, I don't have to read that whole entire thing. So anyway, help everyone. So everyone is your absolute, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's dot, 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 help everyone. So I need to help everyone, or whatever sentence, dot, 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 help everyone. Have you met everyone yet? So do you know everyone? So that's what proves that statement cannot be true. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, so you're basically saying anytime that we're saying everyone, when we can't actually qualify or quantify what is everyone, but we're pretending as if we can, and we know this about everyone, right?
Right. It could be everyone on the couch, you know.
And that could be qualified and quantified. That could work.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just being more specific. The more specific, the more powerful. Always be better. So always. And the example they give is better in what? You know, Egyptian hair weaving. This is really vague. Always be better. Always better is in what specifically? Better or effective, successful in what exactly? So it's just get more specific.
Hey, what is the word that we're really looking at there, though? Are we looking at like better? We're looking at the word always, right?
Yeah, I have always underlined, but I think it's supposed to be better.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
always is also one of them. So I'm sorry that that's not more clear.
That's okay. We're all learning together.
Yeah.
But basically we're all not trying, not attempting. It is not conducive to appropriate co-creation and manifestation if we're using the word always
Or better.
or better. Why not the word better though? Because it is vague?
Well,
I feel better today.
yes, because it still is vague. Better in what way?
Okay.
So it's just it's really, really drilling down to specificity.
Okay. Build back better.
Build back better.
Like, that to them that they just might mean like better Satanism, right?
Exactly. Better spirit cooking.
Oh shoot. Better tyranny, better control. Shoot.
Better
right?
fear.
It's not like build back more consciously, build back more humanely, build back more benevolently. It's just build back better, and it's their interpretation of better, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm understanding the better word now. I'm understanding better.
Yeah. And wow, like that right there, just what you said, that right there is
Made no sense.
how they can hold you in a spell by believing. So if you buy into Build Back Better, you're agreeing, you're giving your consent to whatever better is to that person if you're jumping on that bandwagon. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. And I think Build Back Better is probably like the perfect example for us to understand it, because we understand the people who are saying Build Back Better, better denotes what they're saying better is. And they know that what we think means better, they know that that's not the better that they're using, right? But right? Shoot.
Funny.
So we can all get rid of the word better now, right?
And I think, truly you can say better about some things,
Mm-hmm.
but the more specific you are about what better means,
Yeah.
that is what manifests. That is true in the moment.
Yeah.
And then
so almost when we use the word better, it's good to even expand a bit. I feel better today because I had a really deep, wonderful sleep last night, right? Or we're going to build back better and ensure that we don't have homelessness and poverty. And right, we need to expand on it if we're going to use the word.
Precisely.
Cool. Okay, keep going, girl.
Better in everything. So everything is underlined here. How will you measure bitterness? It's bitterness, guys. I went through and checked this, but my eyes, how will you measure betterness in everything? Like there's no measurement for that. So there's no specificity attached. Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Complete transformation. This one I think is funny. Transformation into what? Becoming a frog? No, it's still a living thing. So therefore it cannot completely transform. It can't be a complete transformation because we're always mid-process. We are mid-process. We are learning always. I want to say always. I really want to say always right there.
But that, I think saying that we're learning always, that is a true statement though. Yeah. Because there literally isn't another way, because we are basically human computers experiencing this reality. But in that example, are we looking at the word complete, or are we looking more at transformation?
You could go with both, and transformation is what it's talking about. It's saying transformation into what specifically? Okay.
So again, kind of like better, it's like we got to be more specific, but that word is still okay to use if we're using it in a way that implies specificity.
Yes, and complete is still okay to use if it is true.
Okay.
When it is true.
Okay.
So we're looking for truth now and specifics. So because it's not true. A complete transformation, even in this example, he's like, even when we die, we're still energy. So, it's like we're always in flux. We're always something. So I don't know. I found it to be interesting. I left it in there because I thought it was interesting.
Oh yeah. And it definitely, like, talking about it is going to shift how we use it to apply it with more specificity, right? And just have more awareness of how we're speaking it.
Right. Totally improve. So we've got totally and we've got improve. So total is an absolute state connected to a vague feeling of bettering. So totally is an absolute, right?
Yeah.
So, I can't, in this moment, I'm unable to come up with a sentence that would be a total sentence. But and then improve is how specifically, improve what specifically?
Yeah.
So he's totally mad at me. So that is an untrue statement, because if you can find one iota for untruth, then it's untrue.
Yeah.
Is that all making sense?
That is making sense to me. I
Okay.
hope it's making sense to our listeners too. And again, for anybody listening, if you come over to the podcast on YouTube, it's like you can actually see the charts that Kimberly's speaking us through, and seeing it is really, really helpful.
Yeah. Absolutely get it. Another word which takes another total word to describe completely for absolutely perfect understanding. And if you choose to read conscious language, you'll see that sometimes he says things in the grids and stuff that are kind of like little slaps aside. They're like slaps aside the head. It's almost like he has sarcasm in some of the things that he says. And to me, this is a little bit like that.
Okay.
Because it's like a proverbial duh. It's like almost, to me, it's too many words to explain absolutely, but an absolute and absolutely, that's just putting everything under one blanket.
Yeah.
And completely is the same.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
Okay. So, and there again, it's get what, in what specific ways.
Yeah.
This one I love. And this one, being a manager, I did the best I could. I did my best, the best I can do. That's another one that I've been aware of for a really long time in myself too, where I've said, I've done my best. And there are probably times, or there's likely some times where you have done your best in certain situations, if you really get honest with yourself, could you have done it better? So it's like where we say it was the best I could do.
Mm-hmm.
Are we excusing not our best? Are we making an excuse to have not done our best? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Does that make sense? It makes sense. If it makes, Kimberly, can I tell you that it absolutely makes sense to me?
Does it absolutely make sense to you?
Okay, so in the situation where we're like, okay, it's the best that I could have done. I did my best. And we also understand that there's other variables and we have so many choices and we could have still done differently. What would be our better way to speak? And I said, would it be that I'm satisfied with the effort that I applied and the outcome I gained?
That's one way of doing it. And saying, his example is, I did it specifically how. So it's really just stating exactly what you did rather than all the adjectives that go along with it.
Okay.
And I did a great job is the other statement that he has in there. So I did a great job. So that is an affirming. And if it's true, then say it.
Yeah.
When it's true, then say it.
Yeah.
I like this one too. Giving it my all. When we give it our all, there's nothing left. So if you're getting really specific, or when you're getting really specific, if you give it our all, that is not a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just how deep the layers are. Yeah. All of this absolutes and grandiosities is just really how deep the layers of language are. There's so much more to it. I mean, I'm really taking a very basic approach. I'm really just going, really we're deep, but we're also, there's so much more underneath all this.
Yes.
So I really recommend getting the book or watching some more videos about language. To me, it's fun. Like, I have a visual of a crossword puzzle for some odd reason. Like, no, go this way. No, drop down. And then, so it's like this road that I'm taking, to get more conscious with my language. So nope, that square stops. So let's erase that. Go to the next. Go this way instead of that way. Go sideways instead of down. That's just what is in my head for some reason. It's just a visual of a language path.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I guess kind of like a maze.
And is language not a maze? Right? Yeah.
It's leading you somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And then we get to the wall.
Yeah.
And we turn around and we go the other direction.
Yeah.
What's going on? So his statements were giving it all my focus. So, that's true. That's true. My enthusiasm, if that's true, that's true. My effort, that's true. That's true. So it's like, if those are true statements, then say them.
Mm-hmm.
They're good to say. I give you permission.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to ask or add or about that?
No, I'm just, each time I want to be like, yeah, beautiful, or yeah, that's so true, or absolutely. Now I'm like pausing before I even say something back to you. So I'm good and complete in this. I find that it's so interesting. It's so interesting understanding how we can shift like all of the things. And I especially this conversation around specificity. I hope that this starts shining a light for everybody's own introspection. And like literally for everybody that's listening, I'm specific to that, but your own introspection of like, where am I not specific in what I'm feeling, in what I'm wanting, in what I'm not wanting, in all of the things? Where can I truly be more specific with how I think about how I feel, how I think about how I think, and what I'm actually speaking, right? And now how, of course, like if we're being more specific, especially in the dialogues of our relationships, right? Especially, I mean, relationship with self, of course, but also relationships with others, being more specific probably drastically changes, everything from even like, oh, you're never helping me around the house, to can you please do this one task for me? This will help me greatly. Like it would change all of our interactions, little ones, big ones, in all ways, right?
Yes. And it creates more truth and honesty.
Yeah.
Which, if that's your path, if truth and honesty are your path, your language is part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, and can we also include like if truth and honesty are just values? We all have different core values, but those are some of my core values is truth, honesty, and transparency. And so that now that I'm aware of this stuff, it requires us to venture further and to keep editing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
good. Okay. So really, that was all I wanted to cover today.
Beautiful.
Was that domain. And we can go into other domains, especially if people really are interested in this. I would like to make a series. So I would like to give you all more information, all of our listeners more information as we go through the next year. So we'll be popping these in.
Yeah. We'll probably call this one, what do you want to call this episode? Like Conscious Language 101, Intro to Conscious Language type thing? Yeah. And then we'll do some specific episodes going forward.
Mm-hmm. So the book I used, of course, was Conscious Language, The Logos of Now, and Ivy's holding it up, by Robert Tennyson Stevens. And he has a website, masterysystems.com. So he teaches all this. He teaches how to embody all this. It's a lot to take in, and I understand that. It is a lot of information to take in, and that's why I chose to stay as basic. Well, even too, because I'm still learning, even, this book is a book that you don't put it on your shelf, or let me say that more consciously. You keep it out so that you can reference it.
Yeah.
And it's a book that you can go to bed reading parts of and practicing and creating the muscle memory of saying, I am that I am. I am and I can. Um, I'm choosing my highest good. I choose love. I am love. So
Mhm.
it will direct you, and you can just practice saying those things over and over. So you hear yourself saying them, and you want to say them out loud as much as you can. So you hear yourself saying them, so that when you notice it pop up in a conversation somewhere else and it's not conscious, you can delete it, edit it,
Yeah.
delete it, cancel it, and move on and decree your highest choice. The other book he wrote, he co-wrote it, is My Word Made Flesh. And this is a book that just came out, and it's a handbook, and it takes all these decrees and it associates them with essential oils, really, to bring in your highest frequency. So it's fascinating to me. Like, I want this book open all the time. I really do. And I also know that I don't have that much time. So I take little bites and little bites of it,
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. You want this book open all the time. You choose to have this book open up all the time, right? Yeah. And this is such a good book of, like, for everybody that's listening, is like, this is the type of book that you open up, and if you have the time to read one paragraph and practice that one paragraph, or like one bullet point in your day, it's like, this book is a lot to digest, and but it's in the best of ways. But again, like, the tiniest little bit of it can transform things.
Oh my
Tiniest little bit of it. And I feel like we, like, just even flipping through this, Kimberly, like, we should have like an episode a month that's just workshopping a different aspect of this, because it's so valuable, not only to read it, but then also to create conversation around it, where it's like we can actually practice with it and riff with it, right?
I agree.
And then for the listener, for our friends and family here with us in this podcast, like, it is worth definitely, it is worthwhile. It is worth the effort to invest in this simple book.
In your opinion.
This book isn't simple. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And so this is where sovereignty also comes into play. It's like, when, that's when we're very specific about what we're bringing forward, our beliefs, our truths, and not putting those on other people. So, like, yeah, I would love for everybody, quote unquote, to get this book and upgrade their language, because it would create a whole different world. And then consciously, I know my sentence was a massive,
full of things.
Yeah.
Full of no-nos.
Right. So
it's like, well, we really enjoy this book, and it provides us with plenty of value. And do what you want, humans.
Do what you want. Right? And I believe it would give you value too.
Yeah.
I believe it would upgrade your life. I believe that it is for everybody.
I believe you are accurate.
Yes.
Yes. And this is just a practice, right? Every day, all things, practice.
It is a practice. It's a practice of coming into the breath. It's a practice of awareness. It's a practice of noticing. It's a practice of feeling your body.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a practice of mastering your language. It's a practice of reframing your language. Mastery of language affords one remarkable opportunities. That was a quote that I just read, y'all. But it's true. When you master even one domain at a time, like I told you, I have those two that I've been working with for a really long time, and I'm really good at those. I'm really good at noticing those and catching those, especially in other people.
Of course.
Especially in other people. So yeah, it can change so much in your life if you choose to master language, one domain at Anytime.
Perfect. Thank you so much for preparing all of this for all of us today.
My pleasure. I love it. This is one of my healthy obsessions.
Oh, it's a very healthy obsession. Yeah. Good. Is there anything else that you want to include? Like anything else?
Gosh, we touched on so much and it was so rich.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's so rich. I encourage you listeners to look, to listen to yourself, to notice what's going on around you, and to be in the now as much as you can remember to be, so that you can choose your highest choice, your highest degree, and what you want for your life, what you want for your body, even, and what you want for your relationships.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. And so for everybody, the resources that we mentioned earlier in the episode, we'll make sure that those are linked in the show notes. And also maybe we might even have, as an afterthought, have a couple more things to add into here that are related in case you want to dig a little bit deeper. Because I believe even on YouTube that I found some talks by the author of this book, I think. So if I can find those, I'll add some of those into the show notes also. And Kimberly, anything else that you think of? Because again, for our listeners, right, there's so much value in exploring this realm, in our opinions.
Yes. Yeah. So I really appreciate everybody listening. I really want people to share, because this can really impact so many people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also one last thing, how about for anybody that is on YouTube or anybody listening on the podcast, if you have questions about conscious language or ideas or areas of it that you want us to explore more, because like Kimberly stated, there are so many domains and so many layers within this body of work and consciousness. So in the show notes on YouTube, or sorry, in the comment section on YouTube, please feel free to put any questions, comments, concerns about language, what you would like to know, anything like that. Because if you do have any suggestions, our next episodes on conscious language, we can cover what is important to the audience first.
Yes. And a reminder that we're all in this together. And you can set it up for yourself to, if you partner with somebody in conscious language, then have them notice. And with that also, or ask them to notice what's going on in your language so that they can help you correct, and vice versa. And so it's great to partner with somebody on this. And also, I invite you in the comments, if you have some knowledge that you want to impart, because we are all in this together, drop it in the comments too.
Yeah, please. Community learning is the best learning, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, guys. So I guess that's everything for this conversation, right, Kimberly?
Yes.
So it is Monday, the 20th. We hope everybody has an incredible, beautiful, conscious, intentional solstice, or whatever type of solstice you want to have, because you're sovereign. God. So, best wishes if you want our best wishes. And we're going to see you next Monday, the 27th. So Merry Kwanzaa, Christmaka, or however we put together all of the holiday words. And next Monday, really beautiful episode on our bodies and the Essene Gospel of Peace and cleansing from Jesus's perspective and more. So please be there for that conversation with us as well. And thank you everyone for being here with us again.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. We love you all so much.
We do.